Okay, so welcome to the final section. We're going to go through SQL a little bit with Flipside Crypto, download some data, and then we'll do some Microsoft Excel analysis. If you don't know SQL and you don't really want to learn it or you don't want to know Excel, I still recommend watching it a little bit just to know it's possible, especially if you're a business manager or a trader who might be interested in accessing like real-time data or, you know, just in general to know it's out there because it's cool. So we're going to go back to Token Terminal. Remember from last few videos, we talked about Token Terminal's fundamentals for crypto. Again, not financial advice, but these are just some metrics that are available. Some traders like to use them, some people like to use them and talking about different protocols. So what we're going to do is go over Uniswap, that decentralized exchange that we mentioned in the intro and that you've heard a few times by now. So current price of Uniswap is $6.98. You can see that here, down in the last 6 months, but in the last 7 days it's up a lot. Very volatile asset. The circulating market cap in dollar terms is about $3 billion. Fully diluted is about $7 billion. So remember in our first intro on CoinGecko, we briefly talked about how coins can be in circulation and coins can be existing but not in circulation. So Uniswap right now has about a little less than half, maybe 40% of all the Uniswap that will exist. About 40% of it is in circulation, and the rest is, it's being held, it's being slowly given out for different things, grants, whatever the treasury chooses, stuff like that. In the last 30 days, the total revenue has been about 45 million. So the protocol revenues in the last 30 days is actually dashed. So the reason for this is that, remember we talked about Uniswap, there's piles. I'm kind of neutral between ETH and USDC within this range of prices. So I'm going to put a pile of both in, and people can kind of trade between them as long as they pay me a fee. Well, the people putting the money in the pile and doing that, allowing people to trade, they're earning revenue. They're earning fees, which you can see here. I wanted to put up some of the Uniswap pools. They have different fee tiers for different pools. So this pile and this pile at this rate, this pile and this pile, same stuff, but a different price rate. So you can, not everybody has to sell their liquidity at the same price in terms of the fees. So Uniswap is a way so people can make money with these pools, but Uniswap doesn't get any cut of it. They don't take a piece of the revenue. They don't charge people to trade, charge people to put things into the pool or anything. So it's not earning any revenue. So as we think of some of these financial metrics and how to value protocols, not just, or how to value applications, not just like layer one blockchains, like we saw with Ethereum and Solana, we have to wonder about, how are they making their money? Does that money accrue to the token somehow? That's what traders want to think about when they're thinking about buying these crypto tokens. We also noticed the PS ratio is a little lower than we saw with Ethereum and Solana. And we also see a few new stats that you didn't see before. Annualized trading volume, which is, the revenue comes from people paying fees when they trade. So the more volume, the more trades, the more fees, the more revenue to the people put in liquidity. So people care about this. People care about the popularity of an exchange, and they want to use the most popular exchange when it's rational to do so revenue-wise. So that's what this trading volume is. It's telling us in the last 30 days, annualized, they would have, if they repeated the last 30 days 12 times, this is the amount of revenue that they would have, or volume they would have to then charge a fee and get revenue out of. And all the pools, all the piles, all the pages of piles and piles and piles of different coins being traded, they total about $6 billion worth. And that's important to know because some people look at applications and they think about, okay, what's the ratio of how much money it's holding versus how much it's worth? And you don't want to think of it as one-to-one. The right answer is probably not one, but it's just interesting. It's an interesting metric, again, not financial advice. So let's do some analysis on this just because we talked about Uniswap a lot, and if you get really good at Uniswap data, you can get pretty popular. A lot of people talk about Uniswap. It's very complicated. It's a deep protocol. Has a lot of things like different functions that they use to price trades. We're not going to talk about it now, but Uniswap is really cool. Definitely look into it. So we're going to look at its price relative to the revenue that people are getting out of it. And it's important to remember that this revenue doesn't go to people who hold this token. It doesn't have to. There's no formula for that. So you almost wonder, we saw Ethereum, its revenue chart and its price chart were pretty correlated. We saw Solana in the last video that it was pretty correlated. Solana revenue and the token price. So let's kind of, we want to hypothesize a little bit. Are we going to see that relationship in like things like Uniswap? So here we can see the revenue for the people who put in their piles of money and liquidity. Um, you know, they're making money consistently. It has some cycles to it, which is always interesting. Let's go ahead and do max at the month level. So they had, it's a newer protocol than Ethereum. Came out in 2020. In September of 2020, just a fun side note, they came out with an airdrop. They gave people free tokens for having used them. So there was a lot of interest in Uniswap after that, and it grew a lot as a result of kind of leading the way. So that's just some history lessons. So its revenue was going up, and its price was going up accordingly. And then recently, we've kind of seen that some correlations break. We're seeing falling prices with rising revenue. So they're not as correlated as we saw with ETH and Solana. So let's kind of get to the query part of this and kind of maybe just pick a pool and maybe do a little analysis on that. So we talked about ETH and USDC before when we talked about trades and kind of things like slippage, price impact, and all that stuff in the intro. So let's do this. Let's look at, let's sort of this by volume. Okay, so the most voluminous pool, the pool with the most dollar values worth of trades happening, is the 0.05% USDC ETH pool. And that makes sense because, this pool is more expensive. It's the same exact tokens, but this one's more expensive, so less people do it. More people try to pay the cheaper price. So let's look at this pool really quick. We can see it has $260 million worth of tokens. It has 130 million USDC, and it's 85,000 ETH. And its volume in the last 24 hours is down, but its volume is like multiple times the TVL, which is interesting. And it's accrued 400,000 in fees for the people who put a pile of money in. And Uniswap's nice. They give us the contract address for this pool, so we can do a few things. We can go to Etherscan like we practiced, and we can search contract addresses. We can search addresses, NFTs, all kinds of stuff, transaction hashes, blocks, whatever. So we can see this is a contract. It's the contract for the USDC ETH pool for Uniswap for trade. It holds 170 million in tokens, so a little different number than what Uniswap's showing. Had some failed transactions recently. That's what these mean. Let's see. Uniswap contract. Let's see. Internal transactions. Yeah, lots of info here. So we're not going to get too deep on the Etherscan side of things, but addresses and contracts, you can kind of check a few of their stats. You can like see what transactions they've done. This one was created 441 days ago, so that's an interesting thing you can always check. 33 transactions have failed. So this is because this is a contract, and people seem to have been trying to transfer tokens to the contract, and the contract rejected those tokens, essentially. This contract doesn't want to receive tokens incorrectly. That's cool that it's written that way. So, yeah, let's see. This is the pool address. There's not that much detail here. Honestly, I expected a lot more transactions of some sort. So this is the ERC20 token transactions. I'm not sure how many there are. Let's check here on Etherscan. Etherscan's great. You can just check like random information, click around. So these transactions are like people like trying to send things to it. These transactions are like calls to its own function. Like this is like what its job is. So okay, 4.9 million transactions, and it's happening like all the time. Cool. So this is our pool like we expected. We're not going to use Etherscan API right now to pull data, but Etherscan does an API. It's worth checking out. Let's go to Flipside. So if you recall, Flipside is it's a data service provider. It has a community of analysts that kind of get coordinated against protocols and layer 1 blockchains and stuff like that. Who the blockchains have data, Flipside community has analytic skills, and the Flipside community wants to learn. They want to do bounties. They want to like discover queries. They want to get clout from posting cool dashboards. Another really cool site, Dune, also similar to Flipside, very popular, has lots of dashboards. It doesn't really have an API, and you can't like download data for free. So I'm biased toward Flipside for that reason. yeah, so let's grab this pool and let's check out some potential data. So inside the Flipside Prod DB, I just happen to know this already. There's a Uniswap v3 table. Here's people depositing, depositing assets to pools, increasing liquidity, decreasing liquidity, putting more money into their piles, taking money out of their piles for trading. Pools, fees, positions, which just means like Uniswap v3 is a little advanced, but positions is different than pools because positions are like what people have their money. It's like the metadata about their pile. So like I might have $100,000 in my pile, but it might not be 50-50 ETH and USDC for a variety of reasons. So we're gonna skip that for now, but just to know, Uniswap v3 is worth studying. So let's go to the swaps table. And what the swaps table has is a lot of info around things we expect, the blockchain stuff, the transaction ID, pool address. We just saw a pool address on Etherscan, so it's probably in here somewhere. Prices, recipient sender, we should check out what that is. A lot of information about liquidity adjustments, that's pretty tough to think about. Let's filter it to our pool and then look at it again. So we know that we're interested in this pool that I copied before. So what we're gonna do is, let's see what that column was called, pool address. And I'm doing this a little backward, but that's just how I just think about it. So I want to filter this to where the pool address is our pool that we were just looking at. I want to grab all the columns, and then I need to grab it from somewhere. So I just use Flipside's little thing here. So insert the column name. So select, start means everything. Select everything from here where the pool address is this. And I'm just going to not ask for all the rows because there might be, we just saw that there's like 8 million, right? We just saw there's like 8 million transactions on here. So we don't want to ask for everything at first. Got a megabyte of data back roughly, and these are some of the transactions. Notice that I'm not sure we ordered them. Yeah, we didn't order them, so they might not be in order. Not a big deal, but something to think about. That means if you run this code, you will get different outputs than I will, so it won't be reproducible. Okay, so this is our pool, USDC width, 0.05. We can kind of scroll over, see the prices, recipient sender, we'll check what those are. And then some amount adjusted. So, okay, so this one went up this amount and down this amount. So probably went up 600. Okay, so they probably put 615 into the pool and they took out 0.533 for the pool. So they sold 615 USDC and they bought this much ETH. And we can double check that. Yeah, token 0, token 1. So cool. So let's do this. Let's just grab the last like 10,000 transactions. And let's grab just some of this data, and let's also order it, because now we want the last one. So there's a timestamp, block timestamp, descending, so the most recent up top. And let's grab the timestamp, transaction ID, so we can check it on Etherscan. It's always good to have like multiple sources of data when you're looking at something, just to make sure everything matches together. I'm not sure what recipient sender are, and these two are the same, so that's a little funny, I would say. Not sure what to do about that one. So let's just keep going for now. We want amount 0 adjusted, amount 1 adjusted, and then I don't really need the contract addresses. I'll just use the symbols for now. So let's just put some breaks in here. Okay. Oh, look at this. Amount 0 USD, amount 1 USD. So when these differ in absolute value, that's like people lost money. Let's track that one too. Maybe that would be a good dashboard. So that's like slippage and price impact stuff, like what we learned in the intro about. Uniswap, that you have to tolerate a certain amount of loss when you deal with it because you might not be first in the block. Let's look at these last ones. Okay, I guess we can skip pool address since we know what our address is. Okay, got our 10,000 rows, it's ordered. Recipient sender amount. So minus this got 2 ETH. Very cool. Very interesting. Okay. Yeah. So let's go ahead and look at the transaction ID. Understand and just make sure we understand what's happening. So this is this first transaction right here. Let's look at recipient and sender. So from is somebody's ENS, it ends in FEB. So recipient FEB. And let's see what sender is. Sender is C45. Yes, I'll pick the router. Okay, so this person, this is the person, they called a router and they made their trade. Cool. So let's call recipient as person or address or something. And then sender, let's just check what the sender is just to be safe. 1-inch exchange. Okay. So routers, just different routers, including public routers. That's cool. And sender as router. Yeah, I mean, this looks right so far. If it's not, it's fine. We're just doing it as a demo. So hopefully you can see that those blockchain reading skills on Etherscan earlier were very useful because these data providers, they don't all have the exact same schema and like naming structures and stuff. So sometimes it's transaction hash, sometimes it's transaction ID. You gotta double check things, use the Etherscan, balance out like your data sources and stuff, make sure you understand what each of these crazy hash looking things actually is. Kind of get practice at being able to quickly tell if two are the exact same. Look at the last 4, look at the last 3. It's not always safe to do that. Sometimes there's actually hackers who kind of can change their own middles, but they have the same beginning and end as popular contracts. Anyway, side story there. Yeah, so this is our data trader router. Maybe let's download this and maybe let's see if we can find some cool pattern in Excel. All right, so let's click the download button and call this Uni B3 USDC 10K trades. Awesome. All right, let's pause here and meet you in the next video.